Hello, everyone. Welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You are listening to newsstreamingnetwork.com. We are home of Going Bold and Going Solo, and of course, our radio station, WGSN. We are so glad to have you here with us on this show. It's called Going Solo: Life After Relationship Loss. I am Cece Shatz. I'm your host here today. I am fondly called the Doyenne of Relationship Building. I'm a divorce, dating, and a life coach, connecting singles throughout the Going Solo Network for years. You guys can reach me on goingsolonetwork.com. And then, of course, my email. I love to share it because I love to get your emails. It's goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. I answer all of them personally. And I want to thank you so much for writing to me because I do love that so very much. But let's get on to our topic today. We've got a lot in store for you. We're going to be talking about self-love in action. Love yourself, love your life with Junie Moon. She is an awesome lady. Let's bring her forward. Hey, Junie, how are
Hello,
you?
hello.
Oh, it is so
Yay.
nice having you. You are a CEO of Midlife Love Out Loud, a global love mentor, an international best-selling author, award-winning speaker, a woman's empowerment leader, and a certified shadow work. And it is wonderful to have you here. It is such a delight to spend this time here with you. So thank you for coming with us on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. I love what you're up to in the world and self-love. It's the biggie. So I'm so thrilled to talk about it with you today.
Yes, absolutely. So before we start on the topic, because I think it's an important topic for those out there, especially those that are recovering from some sort of relationship loss, really wanting to move their life forward in a very positive way, tell us a little bit how you got into doing this type of work.
I had relationship loss. I've been in the trenches. So let me say where I'm at now, because that's why I do this work. I love my life, and there are times when I'm solo, and there are times when I'm partnered, and they're equally amazing. And I'm able to relax and enjoy my life. It's full, it's rich, and I know myself, and I'm able to create with the universe the kind of life I want and being joyful and feeling fulfilled and grounded and just me without having to jump through people's hoops. I can just be me and love it. But that wasn't always the case. So I was, through just like everybody, I had a journey to this point. And the biggest piece to my story is my 20-year marriage, where I walked on eggshells and I was afraid to really speak up. I micromanaged everything. It was exhausting. I wanted to keep the peace. I didn't want to blow up the relationship. Ultimately, inside, I was dying. Inside, I was struggling. Inside, I just was a ball of fear that something might go wrong. And I would eat a lot of food and I hit 200 pounds on a 5'3" body. Long story short, I was in pain and I didn't realize like what really was going on. And I could point fingers at him, point fingers at what didn't work, and point fingers at my mother for teaching me this or not teaching me that. I mean, there's so many things. But ultimately, I got to this place where I dropped into the pain and I found this body of work called shadow work. And it it just blasted what I saw wide open. Well, what I didn't see wide open, which were the blind spots, which was the programming behind how I was being, my low self-esteem, my inability to really love myself in action. And we're going to talk about that. The ability to just relax and trust in myself and know that I was worthy of love. And once I did, and I did this in my marriage, the last couple of years of my marriage. And sadly, the marriage didn't last because he wasn't ready to go for the ride with me. Again, another long story. But what was birthed out of that was a new me. And I created this spectacular second half of life. I have had I've had next level love
Mhm.
with a partner where I was able to be seen and loved and cherished and adored. And I saw what was possible. I experienced it. I've had it. And now I know that you can have next level love, whether you're with a partner or not. So I do this work because I have been through the journey of the pain, of the self doubt, of the what's possible after a relationship. And it's extraordinary if you know some of these pieces of the puzzle to make it extraordinary.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad that you're on the other side of it, and that you're helping others now, pull them along. And I really think that that's our philosophy here on Going Solo, is really always to reach out and help others move forward. And I love the idea of self-love, because I think we must do that. We all, even if we're in a relationship, you have to continue loving yourself. And that again will move to loving your life. And so it's wonderful to do that. So let's share with the audience a little bit, kind of some steps that they can do if they find themselves, not starting, stepping into their new life of being single, right? And they're thinking, now, how do I progress into doing this? How do I move forward from a loss of hardship and moving forward? How do they start making that step forward towards really, the action of loving themselves?
Absolutely. So there's a bunch of different things for that question. Let me just first say piggyback on what you said about we've got to love ourselves.
Mhm,
We haven't been taught that. We haven't been taught to really deeply listen and
mhm,
take good care of ourselves. We have this built-in mechanism that runs a lot of fear inside of us, that doesn't want things to go sideways, and tries to avoid pain. We call that the risk manager. This part inside of us that's like, ooh, this doesn't look so good. The last time you spoke up, you got whacked as a kid, or when you expressed your desires, your desires or your needs weren't met. So don't even ask for your needs to be met. And we pick up all these beliefs along the way that shape us, that have us kind of walking on eggshells like I did. And a mean inner critic. I mean, everybody that's watching right now and listening right now, do you have a voice in your head that says, oh, you can't have love, or you're a screw up, or what were you thinking, and you're so stupid? So here, on the one hand, we might be looking in the mirror saying, I love myself, or thinking, of course I love myself, I'm great. But in the background, we have a lot of programming. We have this mechanism for survival, and that brings in the inner critic that says, be careful, don't do that, stay in the tribe, don't get hurt. And then there's that voice that sometimes can really rake us over the coals, and that's not very loving.
yeah.
And so to your question of how to have this second act, this or heal after relationship, are we being kind to ourselves? How are you talking to yourself? If you saw a little kid fall on the ground and scrape their knees and start to cry, would you rake them over the coals and go, why weren't you looking where you were walking, you stupid idiot? That's what we do to ourselves. And so self-love in action is the journey to really deeply listening what's going on inside of us, being aware that something is off, or we're not being gentle or understanding or compassionate about the journey, about our choices. We look back and we go with all the regrets and all the judgment of the woulda, shoulda, coulda, and that's not helping. It's painful. So, how do we move forward and love ourselves more and have a more peaceful, fulfilling second act or another relationship? It starts with really being aware of how are you treating yourself, and then catching yourself when you're not being kind to yourself, and building that muscle.
Mhm. Yeah, that is so right, because it is true. We tend to beat ourselves up. We try to, I always tell it, when I'm talking with someone, is like, take ownership of yourself. Don't take ownership of all the other stuff. Because when you start doing that, then you're claiming that, right? So you can only take ownership of yourself and what part you played in maybe the demise of your relationship, and then you can possibly move forward. So you're right. I mean, I totally believe that that little voice in our head, we just beat ourselves up continuously. So how does one change that? How do we start creating that shift in ourselves that allows us to be able to, move forward? And I know one thing I always recommend is maybe journaling, doing a journal, and maybe things not necessarily what's going on in your life, but maybe what you're grateful for. Because sometimes when we're thankful for what we have, we realize the value of everything around us and what a wonderful experience that is. Is there anything else that you can share?
Oh my God, that was so great. I love what you said. So first you mentioned the word responsibility. Take responsibility of, what chips did you bring to the party, right? It's tricky though, because we can take responsibility, and that is huge. That's what we need to do. We need to be really honest with ourselves of what are we bringing to the table, and how are we showing up for ourselves and others. The tricky thing is when we take responsibility, are we doing it with love and compassion and curiosity of, how did I show up? What might I want to upgrade? How might I want to shift? Who might support me in growing and expanding this new place that I'm at? So, being really honest and taking responsibility is huge, because without that, you really are stuck in the blame game. You're pointing the fingers and you're looking at the outside circumstances, thinking you have no control. And the reality is that we have control over our life. Obviously, things happen, but our reaction to it, how we show up for it, how we're feeling, how we're being, that's on us. So, taking responsibility and really taking some time after you finish a relationship to reflect on what went down. How would you have liked to have been different with certain scenarios? I mean, I look back at some of my relationships, especially, in the distant past, how over controlling I was, how I tried to cover all the bases and make sure everything was set so nothing would go wrong. Well, that doesn't sound very peaceful or relaxing. And if I'm in my head running all this energy of let's stay safe, and trying to control everything, how did I show up in that relationship? How was I being in that relationship? And how did that impact the ability to connect more deeply with my beloveds? So, taking time to look at where you came from, and with gentleness, be curious of, yeah, this was a pattern of mine. I do these things. I overthink. I step away and dissociate. I ignore. I pull away. Whatever it is. So that's the first step, is that awareness. Now, as for how to change the beating ourselves up or raking ourselves over the coals and be able to get to the gratitude, because you use that word too, we need to see what's behind us. And what I mean by that is what's in shadow. As a licensed shadow work facilitator and coach, a very specific body of work that I've been trained in, what I know is that, and this is neuroscience and it's everywhere at this point, that such a small percentage of our brain is conscious. So consciously, we could be journaling going, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for this. I love my life. I'm beautiful. I'm wonderful. I deserve. Okay. That's conscious. And it's true. It's all true. And if only 5% of our brain is in that realm, what's the 95% that's in the background? No, not really. Yeah, that's never going to happen for you. You're too old. Who's going to want you? Look at the last relationship, like all this noise in the background that we're not aware of. So, writing is a great tool. Affirmations are a great tool. And I also say it's the tip of the iceberg to be able to truly have transformation that sticks, transformation at a cellular level where you can truly drop into the gratitude and know all is well. We need to empty out the baggage from the past, let it go, learn from it, and upgrade our system.
Okay, so how would you say one could empty that baggage? Because we hear that all the time, especially in the dating realm. I don't want anybody with baggage, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is we all have a life, an existing past life. Yeah. So how do
Yeah.
you
And
stop that?
yeah, and that is, it's a huge answer to that question, and it's like, how do we do
Well,
that? It's like, don't bring words, right? Just empty it out, let the past grow, and the rest will be fine. Well, yeah, how do you do that? So there are three steps that I like to play with, and I call it my triple A. Let's see if I can remember it. It's been a while. So the first thing is what I'm talking about, which is awareness. The first A, to really give yourself some time to be aware of what's gone down, what has happened, and how are you now? How are you feeling? What does your body feel like? Awareness, really checking in when you talk to people, noticing, is there a moment, a breath before you react, before you decide? And well, I even want to change that, without reacting, to respond. What a difference from reacting. Something happens and we go right in, versus, oh, someone just said something. Oh, I just felt my body just tighten up. Taking a breath and asking yourself, how do I want to be with this situation? So being really conscious and being aware of how you are acting, how are you feeling, what's going on between your ears, and building that muscle. Second A is allowing. Allow yourself to feel the feelings. Ah! Who really wants to feel the feelings? Some people have learned, and I have, that when you allow yourself to actually go, ouch, I'm in sadness right now, I feel loss, or ouch, that felt like he stepped on my toes, or she was just really rude to me, ouch, what's going on inside of you, and allow yourself to feel it. Oh my God, I feel fear that they're going to leave me. I feel um, I feel sad because I feel disconnected. I feel angry because they interrupted me, or I feel angry because they weren't really listening to me, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So allow yourself to feel what you feel. We shame ourselves so much about feelings, and we numb ourselves out with Netflix and alcohol and work. Allow yourself, give yourself the space to get in your body and allow yourself to connect to how you're feeling, because your feelings are gold. They are the GPS of what to do next, which is the third A, which is action. What can you do to move the needle? So maybe your first move is just being aware, breathing and listening and feeling.
Mhm.
Maybe it's getting a coach to help you see what's the blind spots. What are the things that are showing up in patterns, the old baggage that you don't even know is there, which is all of us. We all have these places that we don't know about, we don't see. It's in the shadows. It's in, and the shadow being the part of us that we've disowned, the part of us we're like, I never want to be like that. I'm not going to show that. That's an ugly part of me. If we disown an aspect of who we are, we don't get to show up fully present, integrated. So allow yourself to feel it and then take an action. But it starts with realizing something's not working, something is hurting, you're not where you want to be. So that's kind of like an entry level thing.
Great information, great information. And I mean, I think this is information that people can take with them and truly, truly make a shift in their lives, really make a difference. So I want to thank you so much for that. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about, loving your life, because so often, we start loving ourselves and we want to create that shift of loving our life. And so maybe you can give us some tips on how we can actually begin to do that. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Again, we have Junie Moon, Midlife Love Out Loud coach to explore self-love in an action. Love yourself, love your life is what we're talking about. Her website, you guys, please reach out. It's midlifeloveoutloud.com. That's mid, M-I-D, life, L-I-F-E, love, L-O-V-E, out, O-U-T, loud, LOUD.com. So make sure you look that up. And then I want to just mention real quick, before we take our break, she has offered a free gift for us, a relationship toolkit program. And you would need to go to midlifeloveoutloud.pages, plural, Ontraport. It's ONTRAPORT.net. And then it's /TRK contest. Dash podcast. She also has her own podcast. We're going to talk about that. But make sure, if you guys, you're saying to yourself, I don't know how I'm going to get this toolkit, just go to our show notes. All you have to do is click on it and it'll take you straight there. So make sure you get that free gift. We want to thank Junie, so much for offering that to us on the show here today. So the Relationship Toolkit program, totally free. Just click it and go to that information that you can get it. You guys are listening to Going Solo Life After Relationship Loss. I'm Cece Shatz, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Going Solo Life After Relationship Loss on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast. We want to thank everyone out there for listening. We are actually the #1 internet singles talk network, and we want to thank you so much for joining us each and every time on our new streaming network.com. You just find all of our information right there, all of the combined with the Going Bold and Going Solo. And we want to thank you guys for listening to us on Roku. We have our own Roku channel now, new streaming TV, and just download our app. Those of you that are listening, we want to thank you. Last year we closed at 6 million, and I just cannot, I just don't have the words to thank you enough. So we want to thank you so much for following us here. But today we've got an exciting topic. We have Junie Moon here with us. She's an outstanding individual helping those really traveling through some of the tough times in their lives and really making a true difference in creating that wonderful shift of self-love in action. Love yourself, love your life. And we want to thank her so much. She has her own podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. She's also the CEO of Midlife Love Out Loud, a global love mentor. She's also an international best-selling author, an award-winning speaker, a woman's empowerment leader, and she's a certified shadow work coach. So we want to thank her so much for taking the time to be with us here today and talk about this important subject. So thank you so much for the first part of the show, because I really do feel if you guys missed it, you must go back and listen to it, because we talked a lot about your actions of what you can do to create and begin to create self-love for yourself. It's kind of a progress, something we want you to continue on doing, right? But now we're going to talk a little bit about loving your life as you're moving through, being single. How does one start opening that door and realizing that things are changing? Things are not the way they used to be, right? And how do we start embracing this new life of our that we can embark on?
Thank you again for having me. This is such a great topic. And before we broke, you were mentioning about the Relationship Toolkit program, which is an extensive program which speaks to this very thing. If we don't know what our beliefs are around love and relationship, if we don't know what we've learned through the years from modeling, from our parents modeling it, or rom-com movies, or our past relationships, if we don't know what we think relationships are supposed to look like in the way that we desire it, there's a mismatch. And so the Relationship Toolkit program is a way to start to unpack and understand what is in the shadows. What did you lose access to? What are your beliefs that are shaping you to this day, and why are you not loving yourself? And then I give very specific exercises and processes to be able to come home to healthy boundaries, be able to have good communication, to be able to really love yourself and feel worthy of love, and be able to open vulnerably. The Relationship Toolkit program, because there was maybe a little bit of a miscommunication, I want to just clear this up, that it's a contest I'm running. It's a $700 value contest where there'll be one winner and some very special second place prizes. So I know it's a long link. It's so worth entering the contest. It's free to enter. Be sure to put your real email and phone number, because there will be a winner, and I will reach out to those that get in second place. And this program, it's with me in it with you to support you in how to have a beautiful second half. So to your question, how do we do this? How do we love ourselves more deeply and be able to design consciously how we want to have this second act? So in the first part of our segment, we talked about being aware, and that inner critic, that part that has you thinking you can't, or has you second guessing, or maybe not trusting in love or partnership because of what's happened in the past. We need to give it a voice. You need to create space for that place inside of you that is thinking, this is not worth it. It is too dangerous. It's too painful to open up your heart. And at the end of the day, love is risky business. So is it worth the risk? So I invite everybody to always start with, what is it that you truly desire? And think big, because again, you might limit yourself because of what you've learned. If you learned that love has limitations, if love is not is love is conditional, you have to jump through certain hoops and then you can ask for your needs to be met. How will that feel to you? That's not too exciting to me. So if you have your, if you could imagine your most amazing relationship, what might that look like? And drop into that, feel it. What would that be like, and impact your life around that? Because if you don't have your North Star, it can be just very messy. And then
Right.
you're gonna, and I see this all the time where people jump into relationships way too soon after relationship ends, and they are seeing the same patterns, the same fears, the same things coming out of their mouth, their same reactions as they had in the past, because they didn't take the time to look at what they want, how they want to design it, and empty out the stuff. So to truly have a different experience, you got to know who you are now, and that takes some time and some precious loving space to ask yourself, what is next for you? How do you want it? What would that feel like? And start there. And then we can go to the next pieces of, well, how do you get it?
Right. Oh, I think that's great advice because I do know that we kind of evolve, right? When we're stepping out of a relationship loss, it's a little bit of a slow process, and we're not really quite sure what it is that we want because we're still kind of recovering from the past. And so once we've done that and we start taking that baby steps, I always say, as we're moving forward, yeah, I mean, I think we have to give ourselves some grace as we move forward to understand that maybe we don't have all the answers to what we are actually looking for, but how can we find it if we don't know what we're looking for? So we have to give ourselves some time and space to be able to do that, to create that journey for us. So yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's wonderful. And I want to share with everyone your website so they can check it out because I think you've got some great information there for them. So again, it's midlifeloveoutloud.com. So midlifeloveoutloud.com. So go to there, make sure that you check out all the information she's got there because she's got tons. I mean, she's been doing this for a while, helping those. So you want to make sure you check that out. And again, the free gift, we've got it on our show notes. You just click on it and register for the contest to be able to win that gift. So yeah, so that is wonderful. So it is great having you on the show. Are there any is there anything that we need to cover today that we haven't quite covered yet?
You have a few hours?
Oh, no, no, because I mean, I could talk to you forever about.
No, I get it. I totally get it.
And as we move forward, it's we want to give people nuggets that they can take away and help them be able to progress into their lives. And so
Yeah.
that's very, very, very important. But I know that there's so many different elements to it. There's so many
Yeah.
different pieces of the pie, so to speak, that we want to make sure that we cover. But is there anything as we're having this conversation that jumps out at you that you want to make sure that we share with them? And then I also want to wrap it up by sharing with them all that you're doing because you do a lot to be
Thank
able to
you.
help those in your podcasts and all of that. So I want to give you enough time to be able to share all of that. So
Thank
anything
you.
that you can think of that we do need to make sure we cover today?
Absolutely. And thank you. Thank you
Mhm.
for all that you're bringing here. We hold a lot of shame. We hold a lot of shame around what we wish we coulda, woulda, shoulda done or acted like, or we can really hold ourselves back from really joy.
Mhm.
And shame is a heavy energy. Shame grows in the dark. It's in the corner, and it's tricky, and it slips in when we least expect it. So we need to shine a light on the shame. We need to see why we do what we do, why we attract certain types of people over and over, why we have patterns of how we're showing up over and over. And I would like to offer an opportunity here to just take some shame off right here, right now. It is not your fault. We are not broken. It is not your fault that you have some programming. We're talking about decades of living on this planet where all these experiences have given you information. And to some extent, we're all machines. The brain is taking this in, laying down all these neural pathways that are saying you're not good enough, you're never going to be loved, you're going to be left, like all of that stuff. That is not your fault. We are built to survive. So your inner critic and all the programming has been kind of set up so that you don't fall down the rabbit hole and get hurt. Not your fault. However, it is your responsibility, if you want to change, to shine a light on that and see why this is happening and release it. I had a client that came to me. She was in her early 60s, had a pretty sad marriage. She was out of it for a couple of years, and she was ready to get back out there. She had her profile written. She was starting to message people, but she kept getting in her own way, sabotaging herself, overeating, canceling on dates, you name it. And she struggled, and she came to me and she said, why? If I really, really want a relationship and I know what I don't want, why do I keep getting in my own way? And we did this whole process where I was able to facilitate her to see things that she couldn't see on her own. That's what's great about having a shadow work facilitator. And she dropped into this moment she had totally forgotten about, where her dad shamed her when she was about 15, 16 years old about dating boys, called her some pretty shameful names, and it terrified her. She felt the loss of her dad's love. So she looked at me and she said, this is why I do this, because of my dad. My dad and I are dear friends now. We've healed so much. But that little girl inside of her had this running in the background. We did a whole process to unplug from that. She went out there a couple of weeks later and met some spectacular man. So we need to know why we do what we do, and why we do what we do is typically for our highest and best until we are more in the driver's seat, where we can actually co-create with the universe how we truly want to be. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I think as we continue, especially through our midlife, right, we're calling it, it's we have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of stuff that we've experienced, what we've gone through, perceptions that we've created that may not even be correct. And so we really do need to step back and really look at this on a whole. So I love your shadow work because I think that's very important. I think it's very helpful for those that, especially if they find themselves. I often say, if you find yourself dating the same person, the relationship's not working out one after another. Well, you have to look at yourself. It's not always just at the individual, but you have to start looking at yourself. Number one, why are you attracting those type of individuals? The other thing is, why are you putting up with that type of stuff? Why are you not setting your boundaries? So there's a lot of different elements with regards to that. And a lot of it comes back to, our past and like you said, the shadow work. So I think that's very, very important. So again, I want those to be able to reach out to you at the Midlife Love Out Loud.com. And if you feel like you're kind of stuck in this situation, these things are happening. I'm sure Junie can definitely help you with some of that. So you want to definitely do that. And make sure you sign up for this free gift that she's doing. It's a relationship toolkit program. It's a contest. You enter it. And it would be a great life-changing experience for you if you win this product. So I think this would be a wonderful thing to do.
Thank you.
But I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, it's just a joy to be able to have you. Tell us a little bit about your podcast that you do, because I'd love to be able to share other people's podcasts. I think it's so important. So tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you. So, solo life after relationship, there's something to be said about starting over. Like, who
Mhm,
are we? How do we want our life to be? Do we want to be in a relationship? What are the components?
mhm.
Well, I created Midlife Love Out Loud, which is the name of my podcast as well. We're starting our 5th year next week. It's amazing to me. There are just what I've learned is it's not just about emptying out the baggage. It's not just about learning the dating strategies. There are so many pieces to the puzzle when it comes to loving ourselves and loving our life. So my podcast, I bring on some spectacular guests. I have Dr. John Gray coming in a couple of weeks and some other amazing, and he's the one that wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Some people may not know. I bring on amazing guests to talk about everything you need to have a full life, body, mind, and spirit, how to date well, how to enter into an intimate relationship. What does solo pleasure look like? How do you take care of your body if you're menopausal? I tend to gear more toward women, so some of the topics are more specific for women, but there are so many topics that are universal as we get into the second stage of life. And so it's all the pieces. And of course, I'm hopping in on a regular basis to share what I know about creating the life of your dreams without apology and really knowing you're worthy of it, because it's ridiculous. Second marriages fail over 60% of the time. Third marriages fail over 70% of the time. And that's because we haven't taken the time to really come home to who we are and be fulfilled without a person, without a partner. So being solo and learning how to do it and having that joy, that's what my podcast is about. And then you can call in next level love. It starts with loving yourself first and then calling in a partner.
I think this sounds beautiful. And I tell you guys, I know that you do focus, Junie, you do focus a great deal about women. But guys, if you want to know not only about yourself, but you want to understand your partner, I think it's good to listen to shows like this so that you can get a better handle on, really relating to a woman and understanding what she's about and what she's going to be going through and those kind of things. And I think
And
that
I love working with men. Men are amazing. And my podcast totally speaks to men as well. There are just some specific topics like menopause. But at the end of the day, what are the women going through? I love that you brought that in. But yeah, it's good for men as well, for sure.
Yeah, I always tell women if you want to meet a guy, go where the guys go. I always tell the men if you want to understand a woman, you got to start listening to shows that
I
are
love
relatable
that.
to her that will also be relatable to you. So I think it's very important. So all of our shows are good for both men and women, and it's very important because we're all healing, moving forward in our lives, and they're really trying to tune in to what we really want. And so making this quarter of our life really an outstanding one. And that's what we're here for. That's what we want to do. So I want to thank you
Mm.
so much for all that you shared with us here today. It's been just a lovely meeting you and learning more about you and who you are and really seeing the difference in the shift that you're creating in people's lives. So I want to thank you so much for all that you do.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's great. So again, everyone go to midlifeloveoutloud.com and check her out, Junie Moon. Junie Moon is the CEO of Midlife Love Out Loud. She's a global love mentor, international best-selling author, an award-winning speaker, a woman's empowerment leader, and she's a certified shadow work coach. So make sure you check that out. She's giving us an opportunity to win the Relationship Toolkit program. Well, all of the links are right there on our show notes because it's quite long. Just go to our show notes and you can click it and register for that. Make sure you do that because especially these free gifts that we have or free opportunities that of things here we share on the show is very, very important. So I want to make sure that you guys do that. So if you guys have any questions, you can reach out to me at goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. I love to hear from you. You can check out all that I'm doing, connect with our singles on goingsolonetwork.com. And then, of course, be sure you listen to the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We love to be able to share all of our information with you. And we are a podcast, TV, and a radio station. We have all of our information right on the newstreamingnetwork.com, which embraces both going solo and as we move forward, joyfully in our life going bold, right? So we want to make sure that all of you catch all those going bold shows because they're very important. So newstreamingnetwork.com, connect with us on Roku at New Streaming TV. That's the app. And we want to thank you all for listening to us today. I am Cece Shatz. I want to thank you so much for joining me. And I hope that we'll see you next time. We love having you right here on Going Solo Life After Relationship Loss. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.